What's up, everyone, and welcome to episode 156 of the Just an Insight podcast, a show where we talk to people involved in the world of alternative music and their journey through the musical world. As always, I'm your host. My name is Tim Birkbeck, still coming to you from lockdown as the world is still fucked. But I am starting to venture out a little bit more. I'm hoping to see some friends in the coming weeks, so getting incredibly excited about that, which is ace. So it means I'm going to get rid of this cabin fever I've been feeling for the past 4 months. As I do at the top of every show, just want to say a massive thank you for everyone who checked out last week's episode with Kate Flynn from The Winter Passing. Also want to say happy belated birthday to Kate, who celebrated on Sunday just gone, if you're listening to this on the day of release. But yeah, that was a really fun episode, and I hope everyone enjoyed it, everyone who checked it out. A reminder that whether this is the first time you're listening to the show or this 156th time you're listening to the show, please subscribe, rate, review on whatever podcast platform that you're listening to us on. We would really, really appreciate that. Also, if you want to support the show further in any shape or form, you can do so by visiting our Patreon page. It's patreon.com/Just an Insight podcast. Right, that's all my little plugs out the way. Hope everyone's doing well. Hope everyone here in the UK are wearing their masks when they go out to the shops and stuff now, which has become mandatory as of last Friday. But yeah, just wanted to kind of take a quick note before we get into this week's guest to talk about some releases that came out on Friday just past. 3 incredible hardcore releases, to be precise. They are Impenetrable Cerebral Fortress by Gulch, A Truth We Still Believe by Eco Strike, and Sleep Deprivation by Mortality Rate. Now, the reason I want to bring these up because they're not only are they 3 killer records, but they're 3 absolutely different styles of hardcore. And I wanted to pick that up because it just shows how diverse the genre is at the moment, and that we can have these 3 releases that all come out on the same day but offer up something completely different for listeners. And yeah, I don't know, it's just an exciting time for hardcore at the moment, and we may not be having live shows, which is a massive part of that. And I, for one, am massively missing out on that, because this weekend just gone, I was meant to be in Roxani in the Czech Republic for my annual trip to Fluff Fest, which was a bit heartbreaking. But like, to get these records, it shows that bands are still doing really, really cool stuff at the moment, and that's something to be excited about. So yeah, if you haven't heard any of those records, please go check them out. I know particularly that Gulch record, a lot of people are excited about it, and I think Close Casket Activities, who put that record out, I think they've sold over like nearly 1,500 copies already, like within a couple of hours sort of thing. So that's pretty fucking impressive for a hardcore band anyway. But yeah, just kind of wanted to mention that. Anyway, let's get into this week's guest, and we're kind of sticking on the hardcore theme, as I'm joined by vocalist by hardcore straight edge band Year of the Knife, Tyler Mullen. During the conversation, we discuss how Tyler's the youngest of 6 and how kind of his older brothers kind of helped shape his musical introduction, and how sort of skateboarding and music formed his early years. We discuss how all the members of YOTK have kind of dealt with family members or close friends going through addiction, and how that's kind of shaped them being a straight edge band. And we also talk about how, despite the band being of aggressive nature, that Tyler has always wanted his lyrics to be sort of clearly heard and have a clarity to them when he's sort of screaming his lungs out, I guess, for lack of a better term. Year of the Knife's new record, Internal Incarceration, comes out on August 7th on Pure Noise Records. I've been lucky enough to hear it. It is fucking killer, so get super, super hyped about that when it comes out. But for now, please enjoy my chat that I have with Tyler, and I'll see you on the other side. So, joining me this week on the Just an Insight podcast is vocalist from Year of the Knife, Tyler Mullen. Tyler, thank you very much for taking some time out your day to have a little chat with me. How's everything in your world? How's I guess your lockdown and stuff at the moment?
Things are getting better. The past week's been a little hectic, but yeah, I'm getting back to myself for sure. So things are becoming a little bit more still again. So
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I don't know, I'm doing good. I'm getting there and just enjoying the summer, swimming, stuff like that. So
Because whereabouts are you based in Delaware?
so I'm in a town called Newark, and it's north. It's northwest
Okay.
Delaware, and it's 5 minutes from the border of Maryland, state of Maryland, and 5 minutes from from the border of Pennsylvania as well. So it's
Okay.
yeah, it's pretty cool.
So like, don't want to sort of dwell on it too much, but obviously in terms of like stuff that's been going on with sort of coronavirus and stuff like that, what have you kind of been doing to sort of keep yourself occupied and keep yourself busy?
Well, when it first like started, I guess we all went under it to what, in like around like February, March.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
everything went into lockdown. I don't know. I read a lot. I was reading a biography on the singer Ministry. The dude's nuts. Love Ministry. Cool. But yeah, I was reading. A lot of my routine would be like I'd wake up, get some breakfast, and then my whole backyard is a trail with woods, and I know I would just walk back there and kind of
Oh,
just,
that's cool.
yeah, it's really cool. And then I would just go on drives, man. And then eventually, through time, I found like a side job, and I made some cash here and there. And then, but like in between those, like just anything that would kind of stimulate my mind. I'd do anything that was
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of artistic, or working on a zine and right now, or writing. I write a lot. I write a lot of lyrics and just poetry and stuff like that in general. So yeah.
Hmm. Well, as I say, we'll get into the more interesting side of things and the music stuff. So,
Sure.
how I always used to like to start these is to ask my guests like, what kind of got you into alternative music? What was your kind of exposure of alternative music when you were younger?
Well, my family had an impact on me for sure. My mom, I'd be in the car with my mom all the time, or in the house, and like she'd just be jamming anything really. She would be like listening to like Selena or Bob Marley or like Patsy Cline or anything like that.
Yeah,
My brothers were the ones who got me into like punk, alternative, and then each brother had a different taste. And my one brother Brett, he was into like crust and death metal and like just oi punk, all this crazy shit. And then getting all of that, you kind of just see the genres like trickle down. You know what I mean? And then I found more, and I used to ride my bike to a record shop called Burt's in Newark, Delaware. And here, and it's not here anymore, it's gone, but probably like the mid 2000s, that's when I started getting heavy into music. Headbangers Ball was on TV. I would just buy CDs all the time. School, I would take them, ride on the school bus, go to school, and like I think just created such a, yeah, man, that was my world. You know what I mean? And here I am now.
So are your brothers older?
Yeah, I'm the youngest of six.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, my brother Ryan, he was the oldest. Well, it was Tracy, Ryan, Hope, Brandon, Brett, and then me. So, yeah, they're older. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's cool. But like, so in that case, like, apart from just kind of listening to music, like, are you quite a musical family, or is it just sort of something that music's always been part of your family?
It seems that way. Yeah, it's instrumental wise though. Like my brother, my brother Ryan played guitar in a band called Stealing December. They were like alternative. Brandon played drums, guitar, and then Brett played guitar too sometimes. But like
they never really took it as far as I got. Like, you know, I just stuck with drums ever since I was 11 years old. And then, yeah, you know, so forth. So,
Yeah.
say everybody's musically inclined.
So then, like, in terms of like getting into like your brothers showing you the punk side of things, were there like any specific bands that you can remember like really sort of being drawn to at all?
Yeah, Misfits, the Germs, and who else? Like, there's a band that really like just rocked my world. It was a band called Disrupt.
Yeah.
Crust punk band. It was like the first exposure I had to like economical like problems and shit, and just veganism and just the evils of the world. Like Disrupt kind of opened my world to everything. Them and I mean, who else? Like bigger, more mainstream stuff like Rancid and oh man, I can't. Adolescence, stuff like that, you know.
Yeah. So was it just like not necessarily like your brother's influence, but like were you always kind of inclined more to that aggressive sort of like political sounding music stuff, or was it because your brothers were putting you onto those bands that kind of grew?
I think it was a little bit of both. I don't think I understood the political side to it until like I got a little older, but I did always have a thing with authority where I always just hated authority, and like it was always just against, you know what I mean? Like something always had to have justice, you know what I mean? So, but I sorry to answer your question. Yeah, I think it was mainly more on like just the harder musical side, like that my brothers were showing me that I could just adapt with like heavy, crazy music, you know? And then the message.
And then in terms of like your own self-discovery, as you say, sort of like going along to the record store and picking up CDs and things like that, like what were the first bands that you would say were kind of your bands, the ones that you discovered like off your own back and of your own accord?
Damn. Oh, this question gets really good. Here, hold up. Because I still have my CDs with me. But so a lot of it, I ended up buying around the time I was buying records or CDs. I would say I was more into like the metalcore side of things by that time.
Right.
But I'd buy a lot of stuff from like when Ferret Records was around, Victory Records was around. And you know, a band that could come off the top of my head, probably like Martyr AD, Has LA Dying. My shit was like all over the place. Avail, which is weird. Avail was like a punk band from Richmond, Virginia. This weird stuff, man. Like all over the place. Comeback Kid was one of the first bands that got me into hardcore. The record called Turn It Around.
Yeah, I think like because if you don't mind me asking, how old are you?
I'm 28 now.
Yeah. So you're roughly around the same age as me. So like that was the same. Like that record was very much one that put me onto like the hardcore sound and what that was all about, sort of thing.
Yeah, them and Terror. You know, Terror.
Yeah.
First CDs I ever bought that was hardcore, and was one with the Underdogs. And fucking crazy how things work out, man. So it's really cool. So Lamb of God. Yeah.
So then in terms of you kind of like exploring music a bit further and wanting to sort of play, like you mentioned playing drums and things. So like, was it something that you always kind of wanted to do, like play music, and was it drums that you were always drawn to in the first instance, or did you dabble with anything else before you kind of sat on drums kind of thing?
I think I was just attracted to like, I don't know. I guess I'll never know really. I was just attracted to like crazy energy and like going fast and like, you know, just anything that was like towards skateboarding or like anything that could like mimic that, like just crazy, loud, fast music, you know? And then you see a drum set in like a store window and you're like, I want that. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. And I went insane, man. So yeah, I think it was that.
So, like, you mentioned skateboarding as well. Like, I saw when you were walking through your house, you've got some like boards and stuff up on your wall. So, is skateboarding another sort of big part of your life and stuff?
Yeah, it is. I still suck, dude. Like, but pretty much my whole life, it was my like form of transportation, but also like a way of exerting. You know, just like always trying to learn something. But the skate shop, I hang out at a skate shop called Switch, and those guys have been my friends for a very, very long time. So, you know, it's always been a part of me for sure. But yeah, like this, that's Bjork on a.
That's sick. That's so cool.
It's cool, man. And then I got a couple things around here too. I got a bunch of cruisers and stuff, but there are some decks that haven't been hung up yet.
Yeah.
So.
But like, what was it that kind of drew you to? Was it like the culture of skateboarding that kind of like drew you to it, or was it just like friends and stuff were picking up boards and you sort of joined in?
I think it was my brothers. My brother Brett, he was skating. I didn't have any friends yet, and then it just, yeah, like I said, I saw him do that, and we were all just wild kids, like wild brothers, and like just rebels trying to, you know what I mean, just go crazy and super fast and shit. So yeah.
And then in terms of you actually like playing music, as you mentioned, sort of like getting into drums and stuff, so like, did you kind of have the idea of like wanting to start bands and play in bands, or was it at the beginning, was it just a means to sort of, I don't know, get some form of creativity out and, as you say, sort of playing fast and hitting something kind of thing?
Yeah. At first, like getting into music and buying CDs, I guess I didn't really develop the concept of what a band was, you know? And then like I had a friend, Brandon, at the time, who lived up the street from me, and me and him got together and played, and I was like, oh, this is really sick. Like, he played guitar, and like, and then getting into art and all that, you start to see the creativity side of it, and you're like, oh shit, like this is how this works. So I don't know how to answer that question, but yeah, I guess, I don't know. I guess I just fell into an instrument first and then realized, oh, I could start a band with this. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And were there any sort of like particular drummers that you like took influence from or like inspired you, or was it just a case of, again, like you just wanted to play the instrument?
Oh yeah, through time I eventually found influences like Chris Adler from Lamb of God, and one of the first people was Brand Taylor, who was the drummer. He's the drummer of Mastodon.
Oh yeah.
And I forget his name, the drummer of Misery Signals, Morgan. His last name's Morgan. Dude, those drummers, like, and like Abe Cunningham from Deftones, like created this I don't know, man. I just understood rhythm and like chaotic formulas from them. So
yeah. And then, so in terms of kind of you actually like playing and, as you say, sort of discovering that you could do bands and things like that, like what were the early bands that you were playing in? What kind of sort of sound were they?
They're probably just like wannabe. They're like kind of like just metalcore stuff. Like,
yeah,
no structure, like nothing, just like I think at the time, one of the first things that I ever did was like, a couple of my friends were crazy about Dillinger skate playing at the time. So just, I knew, you know what I mean? I knew nothing about like time measures or anything like that. And that stuff is like pure math.
Yeah,
so, it's just chaos. Like, it really is. And I think one of the first bands I joined, this band it was called Arbuckle.
Nice.
Arbuckle. But yeah, it was definitely like in the vein of like Dillonsville Escape Plan. So, yeah.
And before we kind of go on a little bit further, like in terms of you sort of growing up in sort of like the Delaware area and things like that, like was there kind of like much of a music scene? Like were you going to local shows? Like what was your kind of exposure to that world?
Oh yeah, big time. There's probably from like the early 2000s to 2015, 2000, whatever. It's like we had Delaware had a really, really strong music scene, and it brought a lot of touring bands through there. Technically, Wilmington, Delaware. There's this venue called the Harmony Grange, and it was just the Grange, and this guy Harry and Lisa. They used to book shows, and they just brought all types of shit around, and that's mainly. I met a lot of my friends there, and MySpace was huge at the time, so like it was so easy to network and like just meet people and get into music. So yeah, growing up, I went to a lot of shows growing up. I was very, very fortunate to be in this area because there's Philly, Maryland, so you can go wherever in like a matter of 45 to an hour.
And was there like any shows that you can like particularly remember that stand out to you, like specifically where you saw something and you thought that was attainable, and you thought like, oh, if these guys are making a band, then like it's definitely something that I could do?
Yeah. No, I think it was just over time. It was like it was just the amount of shows that I went to more than just one. There were a lot of shows that I went to, but I don't think one of them really like inspired me as of the moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think I just saw for all of it for what it was. It's kind of hard to answer.
That's cool. But then like in terms of, as you say, like the starting out kind of doing like the metalcore kind of bands, like what was I guess for you, like your first band of real note where I guess you were maybe playing shows a bit regularly and doing out of town stuff? Was there a band like that at all?
Yeah, there's the first like legit band writing music, this band called The Crowds and Deer. And it was just really like, we played like maybe 2 or 3 shows, and then it kind of just fell apart. And, but I would say that was before I started touring, So
yeah. And had you, because obviously people know you now for being in the Knife, but like, had you done much touring and stuff before that band?
Yes, yeah. There's a band called Cut Short, and this was probably the era from like 2008 to 2012. And Cut Short was like in the vein of it was just hardcore, so it was around the time bands like Bridge 9 bands were big and Locking Out stuff, and bands like Ceremony, or more of like that power violence era.
Right.
And I did some of my first tours with Cut Short, and that was a Delaware hardcore band,
And were you playing drums in that band?
I was playing drums.
Yeah. So like what was your sort of, I guess, like what was your kind of first touring experience like? Because I think it's something I always find interesting is whether people have any kind of expectations or kind of preconceptions of what they think tour is going to be like before they kind of hit the road. So like, did it kind of meet any expectations that you had? Like what, and did you kind of enjoy your first touring experience, or was it a bit of an eye-opener?
It was an eye-opener for sure. Going on tour like around the time you're 17, you're like, yeah, we're just gonna go. You're not really like, you're not ready for a lot of things, and you're just like, oh shit, like the show's over, where are we gonna stay? You're just like, causes all this anxiety, and you end up sleeping in vans. And through time, I just realized like none of that matters. It's just adventure. That's all it is. Yeah.
And were there kind of any shows that maybe not necessarily on that very first tour, but like, were there any shows that you played in those early days that you can kind of remember where you sort of like settled in and were like, oh no, this is what I want to do, like this is what I want to pursue, sort of thing?
Yeah. Not a single show, I feel like. I mean, but like going back, sorry, I'm trying to answer it. Like probably going on tour. Our first tour was with Expire, and this was when Expire was starting.
Right.
And we were doing it was the Cut Short Expire tour, and we were doing it, and I don't know, I think around that time, like I can't remember. I just feel like that's when I was exposed to touring, and then I saw it for what it was, you know. Like, yeah, you could do something with this, like, you know, you could do drums for the rest of your life. So
yeah.
yeah.
Well, in terms of that, then, like, as I've mentioned before, we now know you as the vocalist of Year of the Knife. So, like, where did the change up come from in terms of stepping away from being the person essentially at the back of the stage to now being the person at the front of the stage?
I mean, there was just like some disagreements with the lineup, and it wasn't working out. And then through time, I was like, I don't know, I'll do vocals. Like, I got shit to say. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I got a lot of anger. Like, and you know, you stepped in there, and then we found Andy, who was like, I think 19 at the time, 18, 19 at the time. And then we got his twin brother, Aaron, and he joined too on guitar. But yeah. You know, I miss drums, but like I still have a hand in it sometimes. Like when we write music, I will, you know, like, yo, I got this idea, or like I'll have like a vocal structure idea that will complement drums or anything like that, you know. So my mind is still always working as a drummer when I'm a vocalist. That's crazy. Yeah.
But so I guess like Year in the Knife is it the first time you've ever sort of taken that plunge and done vocals?
Yeah, like this intensive for sure. I had a band before this called Uzi Kids, and it was just like a joke, kind of like militant straight edge band. But we would just write about insane, funny shit, and it was just a party every show. And so getting to do vocals doing that, it was just chaos. Like I knew nothing about breath control and like technique and like saving your energy until doing vocals with Year of the Knife and touring extensively all the time. Like you learn for sure.
Yeah. Well, we'll stick with that just for the minute, but I want to come back to the straight edge thing in a moment. But in terms of like you developing like vocal technique and sort of like your style, like I think now like your vocals are very recognizable. Like if you whack on a Year of the Knife track, like as well as the musicianship, like but your voice, you instantly know that it's your band, sort of thing. So like how did you kind of develop your technique and kind of learn how to use your voice, because you do have such a distinctive sort of scream to you that it's like it's heavy but it's still like distinguishable, if that makes sense, that you can still work out what you're saying. So is that something you've had to learn over time?
Yeah. I've always been like conscious of what I wanted and what I feel like people would want to hear, and I always found that speaking clearly is like enunciating your words is very important. So I feel when you scream and enunciate your words, you emphasize like syllables and stuff like that. That can bring your natural voice out. You know what I mean? So bringing your natural voice out, everyone's got their own voice. Like everyone can everyone can tell who is who in a dark room by the sound of their voice, you know? So I think a lot of that came from just wanting to scream, but making sure your words are heard, because I'd like to write lyrically, like socially conscious stuff, you know what I mean? Like anything that has anything to do with a mental illness or just, you know, struggle, anything. Sorry. Yeah, I feel like I went on a tangent there. I don't know.
No, that's cool, man. It's cool. I do want to kind of pick up that up in a minute, but I just want to go back and talk about sort of straight edge for a little minute, because you've mentioned the kind of Mullen joking band there. But so I always find it interesting when people who are straight edge, like how they kind of were exposed to it and why they decided to follow that path. So when did you kind of become aware of what straight edge was and what drew you to following that path?
I think around the time I was 15, 16, I had all my whole family was like, you know, very struggle with substance abuse and a lot of really heavy drugs, and I lost family members, and through that time lived the way my life was at home. It was just like music was the only thing I could like connect with, and through time I found what straight edge was through hardcore, and I was like, damn, like I actually feel a part of something. Like I don't feel alone in the world for once, you know. And I just saw it for what it was, and I don't know. I loved it so much that it helped me discover that I'm more of like a morally driven person, and I can take these things serious with integrity, and like it makes me feel good about myself, you know. There's pride in it, so I think it all just stemmed from my family, and then me wanting to better myself and help people along the way. So yeah.
And in terms of like discovering it, as you say, sort of like discovering it through hardcore, like for myself, because I'm straight edge as well. Like
Nice.
I kind of the band that I was driven to and kind of drawn to that really kind of resonated with me, I think with a lot of people my age, was Have Heart.
Nice. Yeah.
So was there a specific band that you like kind of drawn to on the straight edge side of things, or was it just kind of more the overarching kind of idea and ethos sort of thing?
I think it was like the overall, any band I could like find. Probably the first band I ever found was Carry On.
Yeah.
You know, a Lifeless Plague and stuff like that. So that was probably the first band I was exposed to straight edge from. But yeah, man.
And like in terms of like Year of the Knife, obviously, like where you are a straight edge band, but you're not a straight edge band that necessarily like rams it down people's throats, as if so far to say. Like it's still a topic that you discuss, but it's not like all over the shop, if that makes sense. So was that a conscious thing for you guys? Like, yes, it is a matter that we want to discuss, but we're not going to exclude people that don't want to hear it, if that makes sense.
I mean, I'll always talk about it. We'll always talk about it. We all come from like a struggle with family, you know, a family member that has substance abuse, and you know that's why we all gravitated towards each other. And being a straight edge band, there are different ways you can approach to write about things. It doesn't have to be an X on my hand. It doesn't have to be like you're either straight edge or you're not, like just some sort of militancy to it. There are other socially conscious things you can talk about of the reason why you are straight edge, or and I think that's what Year of the Knife does, is kind of talking about things that are stemmed
from these problems that have made you the person you are, if you get what I mean.
Yeah. And obviously feel free to tell me to move on if you don't want to discuss this, but just in terms of like being surrounded by family that sort of had issues with substance abuse and you deciding to kind of follow a cleaner path, so to say, like, I don't want to say that you like wanted to hammer the issue of your lifestyle down their throats, because that's not, I don't think that's anybody's kind of prerogative, but like, was it difficult for you to see that side of things when you'd chosen to take the polar opposite, if that makes sense?
Are you asking like, is it difficult to see people be more like militant about it? Is that what you mean?
No. Just like, because you'd kind of taken a clean stance, was it difficult to not kind of push your values on your family when you know that they're going through a struggle?
Oh yeah, it was definitely difficult because as of the past couple of years, I've learned that it was all ignorance. You know what I mean? And people are sick. I mean, like, and growing up as a teenager, you just don't understand. Like sometimes, like, that it's addiction just becomes like no longer this like person. It's just like this demon that carries, like, you know, is with them. They're just two types of people. Sorry, I'm getting off track, but like, it was difficult for me to like not be crazy high strung about it. You know what I mean? Like, I took it so serious. And I would never like go around and like shame people. I would just be like, you know, crack a joke or some stupid stuff like that. But like, as of recently in the past couple of years, it's like, no, like I'm using this to like be a better person and a positive person to help people who are struggling with anything, you know. And I've lost a lot of people along the way, so I guess it definitely taught me that through grief, you know. Yeah.
And then if we kind of focus a bit more on Year of the Knife, like, as you mentioned, sort of having sort of member changes and you stepping away from the drums to then go on to vocals, sort of thing. Like, I don't know, because I think that was kind of when people, well, especially maybe over here, would start to kind of pick up on you guys and things like that. But like, when did you guys start to feel kind of like a momentum change, and that people just, I guess, outside of your close-knit circle were starting to pay attention to the band and sort of give note of the band?
I'd have to say when Knock Loose took us out on tour, they really helped us out a lot. And we did, we did a weekend with them, and it was just like Ohio and somewhere else, 2 other dates. And then we eventually toured with them, and it was with Jesus Peace, Terror, and I forget who else. And that was our first tour, our first big tour. And so that's when I started to see, like, yeah, we would make an impact. We'd have like 2 or 3 people sent along a show, and then the next tour it got better and better and better. And then we would start to play local shows at home. And then, like, you know, we dropped Ultimate Aggression, and that's, you know, when we started to see like dog piles, you know what I mean? So,
yeah. And just in terms of, like, I guess the band in its infancy, like, we know the band now for being this like super heavy hardcore band, but as you say, like, with a sort of a social voice that's kind of talking about all these variations of different issues that are going on in the world. But like, when you started the band, what was the kind of focus? Like, what did you kind of have in mind of what the band wanted to sound like, what the drive behind it was?
When we first started, it was pretty just like slower and heavier, like darker stuff, more like in disembodied vibes. And as it changed, we just wanted to be more straightforward hardcore and like more kickback stuff and like European, like 8,000 hardcore kind of stuff, and Cold as Life and Madball, traditional hardcore, you know. That we started to develop that, you know, in the past 2 years. And then I feel like
that is the band as the whole. That's what we were influenced by. But then I started to realize, like, yeah, I could, like, the stuff that I write about it is very relatable with the rest of the world, and a lot of kids could confide in that and what my struggles and my problems, you know. So I started to realize that it is very, very impactful when people start to tell you that, you know, this song helps me a lot. You know what I mean? So yeah.
And then in terms of like your kind of writing, as you said, like very early on in this chat, that you do a lot of writing and stuff like that. But in terms of you kind of going on to vocals, had you kind of written anything prior to that, or was that kind of what kind of kick-started you into sort of writing, if that makes sense?
I've always written as a kid, like since I was a teenager. And yeah, I don't know. It was like I was always just into like poetry and just something that's like clever things, like literature and like just writing. I don't know what really what got me into that. It's just like a part of me, you know?
Yeah, no, that's cool.
I feel like when you have problems, it's like I found a way that helped me by just writing it out, journalizing it, you know, diary or whatever. So maybe it started from that.
So like then in terms of that, like changing that into to be lyrics, was that quite an easy transition for you, or did you find it hard to kind of compartmentalize and sort of take apart your own work, so to say, to make it fit a song?
Yeah, it got harder. It got more challenging once we started writing songs, and then the structure side to it was like, damn, all right, this is a whole nother world that I have to worry about now. Like I gotta, you know. So the writing the lyrics it just comes, you know, it just flows out. But the structure side of it, like once you got to write to the song, there's the challenge.
Yeah. Is that how you guys write then? Is it like kind of the music comes first and then you come in with how you sort of want to place your vocals over it and things like that?
Yeah, it is. If I have any ideas vocally, you know, I'll say it to them, and I'm like, yo, what if we cut a break here and put words here instead of here, you know? So yeah, it's mainly always the song. Then the demo is sent, and then I'll just drive around and listen to them forever.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair. And then, because I've completely forgot what way round the two EPs came out now before you kind of amalgamated them. So, but I always remember like the first EP that you released obviously had the YOTK track on it, which is essentially just like you doing like an old school kind of like mosh cool kind of thing to it, and it's still something that like whenever like I've seen you live and stuff is something that still makes a room go wild kind of thing. So, and I don't know, like it might just be my perception from the outside, but it's almost like now like there's a YOTK like crew sort of thing, and like they kind of really resonate with like that symbol sort of thing. So like where did that come from, and like is it weird to kind of see how those four letters have grown?
Yeah, it is weird to see how like big it's gotten. I mean, there are kids that are, I wouldn't say so much like a crew, I just kind of put it all together as like representing where you're from in your state. So it'll be like YOTK 302, you know. And yeah, it is pretty cool to see. But I was just like, I don't know, man. I was like in my room and I was like, what if I just said YOTK like over and over again? You know? It's just so what's the word? Like repeating things, you know, people will eventually remember it.
Yeah.
And it was more like introduction, you know. It's more like introducing your band. Like it's like it's like the armor of your band. Like people know you by this introduction, like this intro, and that's what YOTK is, you know.
Yeah. And then in terms of like a bit later on down the line, obviously think it was a First State Aggression sort of EP. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it was like, obviously I'd listened to you guys first, but the song Blue Lights was the first one where I'd kind of really picked up on what you were saying. And like, as I said, going back to that kind of making your lyrics like distinguishable and sort of making sure that they're clear in the enunciation sort of thing. And that song is very sort of powerful in what it is you're talking about. So like, I don't know, like going into that EP, did you, because you'd kind of had a bit of a buzz around you already, did you kind of feel that like, okay, now I need to actually show what my voice is, show what I want to talk about, so to say?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I think it is. Like I always knew kind of what we could talk about, like, and always just expose things to the world. But like, as of recently with the new album, I have learned that there are bigger problems than just like woe is me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I can say woe is me, like, oh, I'm constantly just exerting my problems out in the world, but like there are more socially bigger problems, you know, that I could be touching on with this platform. And as of recently, like, I think that question, I have to say, you know, in the past couple of months, I've like realized that I could make this better, you know. I don't know.
Yeah. And then if we do sort of like just obviously talk about the new record that's coming out, obviously it's a bit of a weird time to be putting music out in the world and stuff like that. But on the same scale, like I think more people have got time to sit and listen to music and stuff like that. So I guess straight off the bat, like what do you kind of hope people will take away from this record?
I hope people confide in it. You know what I mean? I think we all have a problem where we don't know how to say things, or we don't know how to express things, and then there's somebody else that says it so much more like clear for you. And that's what I hope like that I could do for somebody. And whether it's verbal with lyricism or it's just the aggression of the record, that, you know, people can just like fucking deadlift, like go to the gym and just like let shit out, you know?
Yeah.
I just hope people get something positive from it. You know what I mean? I'd hate to just give a negative. I'd hate to tear people down like over it. That's not what I'm about. But.
Yeah. And in terms of the title, like on face value, like Internal Incarnation, it kind of has a certain sort of like tone and totality to what it is. But like for you, what does that title mean? Like what were the themes that you guys were kind of drawing into this record, like to come about that title?
Well, I pitched the record title to him like a while ago, and Internal Incarceration is just basically, you know, just being trapped inside, dude. Like it, and you're literally a prisoner. You're literally a prisoner in your mind, and some of these things are stemmed from traumatic problems in life, and you can't find a way to get them out. So, you just kind of sit in there and suffer, you know. Each song is different, but they kind of all wrap around the same, like the thesis of it, you know. And
yeah,
and first song's about karma and the consequences of your actions, you know. And then, you know, Virtual Narcotic is obviously about just the addiction to social media, and Stay Away is about trust problems, and Manipulation Art's about relationships, you know, romantic relationships. And sorry, I mean, I could go through all of them, you know.
You know, that's cool.
Final Tears is probably the most, that's the fifth song, but that's like, I'd say the most positive but persevering song on it. Just about overcoming your problems and like moving on from emotions that have like destroyed your life, you know.
And in terms of like the sort of like lyrics and the themes that you are touching upon, as you say, like as you mentioned there, sort of like overcoming sort of adversity and overcoming struggles and going through all these various different emotional struggles and so on and so forth. Like for you, like it's quite easy to maybe like put these ideas down on paper sort of thing, but then to actually vocalize them, like did you find that difficult, or have you found that doing this in Year of the Knife has been like a perfect outlet to kind of get that sort of out of your system and out into the world sort of thing?
No, I felt it very easy. I'm not afraid to be vulnerable or honest. You know what I mean? Like I feel it is very important, like as a human being, to be honest with yourself. You know what I mean? Because you're not going to learn shit. You know what I mean? You're not going to learn shit if you're not honest with yourself. And that way, you can grow from it.
And just like on that, because I think like without giving Year of the Knife any sort of stereotype whatsoever, but we've kind of mentioned that you are a heavier sort of hardcore band, and obviously like there's aggression in that music, but you yourself have said like you're not afraid to be vulnerable. And I think on a very surface level, like people still think of hardcore as this sort of macho man boys club in some aspects. So for you to be someone that is speaking from a vulnerable standpoint and speaking from life experiences, do you think that's important for younger people coming through the scene to see that, like, yeah, I've got this aggression, but I'm using it to educate and be vulnerable rather than be aggressive for being aggressive sakes?
Yeah, I think it is important. I mean, like we were talking about earlier, we get into music at a pretty young age. And, when you're a teenager or whenever it is, it's like you see it, you hear the music, like you hear the instruments, but you don't really hear the message sometimes. But I have friends that are as young as 16 years old, you know what I mean? Like they're awesome kids, you know what I mean? And they come from pretty shitty backgrounds, and it's like, if I could do anything to help them see a little bit clearer and more and not damage themselves, like that's sick. Like that's what I live for, you know what I mean? And I'm sorry, I feel like I'm not really answering the question as much, but
that's cool. Like then in terms of kind of like going forward with where you are, like in terms of like I guess I don't want to sort of like pigeonhole you as an aggressive band, because there's more to you than that. But like I guess from like seeing you guys live and stuff, there's a certain intensity to what you do and things like that. So for you again, like is that just like an outlet? And I don't want to say like you're being performative, because I don't think that's the case whatsoever, but because you're screaming with such passion and such ferocity, like that's the way it comes across. So is that just you as a person? Is that just how you come out of things?
Yeah, most definitely. All of us. It is an outlet. It's a positive outlet. It's straight, just like exertion from any negative, anger or sadness. It's definitely, it's not a performance at all. I mean, it is a performance when we play. Like you feel the energy. You want to make an impact to move the crowd and shit like that. But like, nah, man, like just being yourself is most important for sure.
And just before I kind of like start to round things up, like another thing that I wanted to talk to you about was something that you guys did literally just before like a full lockdown happened, and that was the whole sort of live stream thing with Hate 56. So like how did that idea sort of come about? And like I don't know, did you like, how did you think it was going to be executed, and was it executed how you kind of had it visioned in your head?
Sonny came up with it. He came up with the idea. He pitched it to us, and we were like, "Yeah, most definitely." And we went there, and it's crazy. We felt so much pressure from it than we did at an actual show. Like, I don't know
Okay.
but we were fucking nervous, dude. Like, all of us were just. There's like this countdown of when Sonny was launching it,
Mm.
and you know, he would do like the countdown. He's like, "Yo, this is gonna hit like all this, you know, the live streaming. What was it, like Instagram, Facebook, and Twitch." And I don't know, man. We didn't know the impact, but it fucking like it hit hard. I mean, people were commenting on all the different the live streaming platforms that it was on, and it did, man. And like, I didn't think people would be talking about it after a month, but like, and you asked the question, so it's still
Yeah.
it made an impact. And it didn't turn out how I wanted it to be vocally, because I mean, we fucking crushed it. We played the songs like super fucking well, and like transitioned well, but I think we had practiced so much that I fucking blew my voice, and like, it is what it is, man. So, but I just kept going.
Yeah. And like, well, I guess when you were talking about the idea and it was coming together, because obviously you played new songs for the first time, and like obviously that was the first time people were hearing your new songs. So was that always something that you consciously wanted to do, was give this as an opportunity to showcase what was to come in the future for Year of the Knife?
Yeah. I'd hope it helped or something, you know, but I mean, we'll see if we can do it again.
Yeah. And then in terms of like, because obviously, as I mentioned earlier, like under normal circumstances, when you'd be releasing a record, obviously you'd be touring it and so on and so forth. But currently things are still very much up in the air. But have you guys been talking about like when's looking likely that you're getting back in a practice room? Have you looked at potentially when you could be heading back out on the road? Have those conversations been had at all?
Yeah, I mean, every once in a while they'll pop up, but I think it's become so out of our hands, man. And for billions of people in the world, like, there's just uncertainty. You know, we have no idea. And I think by 2021, like, we'd probably be touring again. But
yeah,
there's a lot of stubbornness in the world, so like, I don't know if things are getting better. But I mean, we can always get together. We can always like practice and write new music and stuff. But I think we're all like a little worried, because we're just like, damn, we haven't played in a while. So like, what's it gonna be like when we practice again? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And is it kind of weird, like, as you say, like that not sort of playing, and especially where you've got this now new album with all this new material, that okay, like people have heard those songs that you played on the live stream, but like I'm assuming you're itching to play the rest of the stuff, sort of thing. So is it weird that you have all this new material that under normal circumstances you'd be practicing every week, sort of thing, to almost just have it on a back burner, sort of thing?
Yeah, it is pretty crazy to think that, like, you know, we just wrote 13 songs. So we'll have a lot of material to work with. It's just, when can we work with it? You know what I mean? Like, how that we can always just like post about it and make it known in the world, like, yo, this album exists. Get familiar with it, sing along whenever we have a show. But yeah, it's great. It's great to have this much material now, because whenever we play shows again, we can just make whatever track list we want, you know?
Cool. Right. Well, Tyler, how I usually like to end these is to ask my guests what their favorite song is, but with a bit of a twist. And at the moment, it's a bit of a weird situation, because you haven't had a chance to really play any of your new material. But what's your favorite Year of the Knife song that you'd like to play live, and why?
Blue Lies.
Yeah.
Yeah. Blue Lies is just, it's like I think the angriest song we've written, and people just like love it. Like there's just people just destroy each other over it. It's fucking so sing along and all that. Yeah, Blue Lies for sure.
Perfect, brilliant. Tyler, thank you very much for your time. I've been lucky enough to hear the record and it fucking rips. So I cannot wait for the rest of the world to hear it. And hopefully we'll have you in the UK a lot sooner rather than later.
Can't wait to get back there, dude. Hope to meet you. You know.
Yeah, man. Cool. Thanks for taking the time to do this, dude.
Yeah, thanks for the questions and everything, man. Appreciate it.
No worries. See you later.
Have a good day.
So there we have it, folks. Again, a massive thank you to Tyler for taking some time out of his day to have a little chat with me. As mentioned at the top of the show, Internal Incarceration comes out on August 7th. So make sure you go check that out. Pick up a copy if you can when it drops. As always, there'll be a link to Year of the Knife's social media platforms and various other destinations in the description notes of this episode. And please remember, if you like this episode, please share it with your friends, share it with your family. Subscribe, rate, review. 5 stars would be preferable. That would be wonderful. But yeah, that is it for another week. Thank you, as always, for stopping by the Justin Insight podcast, and I will see you soon.